Traveling to the US is always such a great destination because the US is so big, it really feels like you are visiting a continent. Visiting New York, Florida, California, Massachusetts, Washington, all of the states, all of the states feel like very different places, very different countries. So whatever part of the US you go, you're gonna see something different. You're gonna have a different experience. So getting a US visa that allows you to travel there for 10 years without worrying about a visa um, in and out of the country and visiting different parts whenever you go in again is really awesome. So I want to share today how you can go about getting a US visa as a South African. You need to know and how to go about it. So here I'm taking you through the step by step. So let's do it. So after I did my UK visa video, I just thought, why don't I just share on how to get a US B1B2 visa? Yeah, like I said, going to America is always a great idea. So today I'm going to take you through the steps of how to go about it. So the entire process is done online, but you still have to go in person for your interview. So I think the consulates are in Durban, Cape Town, and Johannesburg, and the closest one to me was Johannesburg when I did it. So I did the whole thing before COVID, and yeah, so the process is still pretty much the same. You still have to go in person, though right now you might have to monitor the dates for booking the visa because of how busy the visa centers have become. But I'm going to take you through the steps of how to fill in the DS-160 online. Cool. So basically, you need to go to the website and start filling in the DS-160 form. The form pretty much asks you about your family history, your education history, your work background, why you going to the US, where you're going to be staying in the US. Right? So something that's very important to remember is that you need to book your accommodation before you go. Reason being is that when you are applying, when you are filling out the application form, they actually ask you for your address in the US. So if you're staying with like friends or family, loved one, whatever, it's awesome because then you have the address. You don't have to worry about it, right? So you can use their address. But the nice way you can go about getting around that is bookings.com. I know I was talking about it in my other videos because they have options to have cancelable accommodation that you can book ahead of time. And even if you haven't decided, you haven't made up your mind, you can still use that address for your application. So yeah, use bookings.com and get cancelable accommodation that you can then use for your application. Something that's quite important is that you must make sure that before you apply, your passport is valid for longer than 6 months. Little fun fact, because the visa is for 10 years, well, the one I got, the B1B2 visa lasts for 10 years. I have been rather fortunate or unfortunate right now that I have to travel with two passports because then I have it in my old passport, but now my new passport doesn't have a visa. A bit of a mission, but it's not the end of the world. So it just means that I need to carry two passports when I go to the US and go in and out of the US. So one thing you must make sure your passport is valid for longer than 6 months, because otherwise then you won't be able to get your passport. Something that's quite important, I think you need to take a screenshot or screen print of your form and all the information that you've put there, because once you've submitted, you're not going to be able to access it anymore. So once you've booked your appointment, you're going to have an interview with the consulate. When you go for your interview, always take your passport. You will need two photos, ID photos. What is very important is that you need to get the US size ID photos. Don't be a me who goes and gets turned back at the entrance of the consulate because you have the wrong size ID photos. So if you're going to be doing it in Johannesburg, since City is right across, there's a photo center there. Just make sure you mention to the person who's taking your photo that you're doing it for the US visa, because the US visa photo size is slightly bigger than the normal ID photo. So when you go for your interview, that's what you'll need: your passport, the two ID photos, that print screen of your DS-160, also because it has a reference number there that you'll always refer to when you're going when you're dealing with them for your case. I've heard of instances where people have been asked for proof of funds. I haven't been asked for it, so maybe just make sure you have your bank statement with a substantial amount that's enough to cover you when you are traveling. One thing you need to remember is that the process takes about 2 weeks, so 15 days is roughly how long it takes. So make sure that you have a bit of time between when you are flying out and when you make your application. And because you don't need flights for the visa application, you can do this way ahead of time. You can do it like 2 or 3 months before you are going to travel. That saves you the hassle and the stress of doing this whole thing in a rush. So the questions that they ask you when you go for the interview, basically they want to make sure that you are committed to staying or coming back to South Africa. This is questions like, where do you work? Do you have a job? Do you have family in the country? And they want to make sure that when you go into America, you're also not going to be stranded. So ask you, where are you going? How long you're going to be there, what excursions will you be doing. So that's what they're concerned about. They want to make sure that you are actually going to a place, and this is why you need to make sure that you have accommodation that is booked. So one thing you must always remember is that they'll be concerned about whether you have a job or a business or studying. So you must have proof of that. So be it a letter from your employer, be it your pay slips, if you're running a business, your financials, or some sort of commitment that your business has. If there's a contract, big contract that you're working on in your business, then it would be a good idea to furbish them with that. If you're studying, get yourself your proof of registration to show that you're actually studying. If you are somebody who's a stay-at-home mom, for instance, and you're just visiting family, you just need somebody to vouch for you in the country to say that you have some sort of tie, be it a bond, be it if you have children, for instance, that your kids are in school. So there has to be like some sort of documentation that shows commitment to the country to show that you're going to be coming back. So that's what the questions will be around. They're just concerned about you're coming back and where you're going. So obviously, if you've traveled and you've been to many other countries, they're not too worried, because then there'll be no red flags against you being denied a visa or against your passport. So then that gives them more comfort that you getting a visa is not going to put them in jeopardy. So yes, so just remember, when you go for your interview, know where you're going, where you're staying, how long you'll be there. Show commitment to you coming back to the country. Do you have a job? Are you studying? Are you working? Do you earn a business? Whatever you do, commitment to coming back to the country, and have your passport that is valid for longer than 6 months. Have the correct ID photos, maybe potentially proof of funds, have a booked accommodation, and that is all that you need for US visa. So let's get traveling. The world is open. Get our visas. Even if you don't end up going immediately to the US, just make sure you just get your visa and have it. You might never know when the opportunity to travel comes. So the visa costs about $160, so roughly 2,500 rands, depending on the dollar to rand conversion. So just have that in mind when you're applying for it as well. So yeah, that's it on getting a US visa. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel so that you can hear more about travel information that I have, and let's grow the channel. So thank you for joining Pretty on a Plane. Love it.